Hi everyone, welcome back to today's video. I have something special for you. I've put together a collection of words related to hobbies and interests. This includes sports, arts, music, and travel. These are everyday words that native speakers use, but they might be new to English learners. You'll discover terms for different sports, art materials, musical instruments, and travel essentials. Let's dive in and explore together. In the first part of this video, we're going to explore some exciting vocabulary related to hobbies and interests by visiting my high school. We'll be walking through different rooms, each focused on a specific topic like sports, arts, music, and travel. While some terms might be familiar, others could be new and interesting. These are words that native speakers use all the time, but non-native speakers might not come across unless they've spent a lot of time in English-speaking environment. Let's get started and expand your vocabulary to help you talk about your favorite activities with ease. Okay, so here we are at the basketball court. Let's start with the court itself. It's a big, flat surface where the game happens. This one is outdoors, so it's made of concrete. Indoor courts are often made of hardwood, which is a bit easier on the knees and gives a better bounce to the ball. In the middle, you'll see the center circle. This is where the game begins with the tip-off. That's when the referee throws the ball in the air and two players jump to try and tap it to their teammates. The court is divided by the half-court line. After crossing it with the ball, you can't go back without a violation, so it keeps the game moving forward. Now, check out this rectangular area under the basket. It's called the key, or sometimes the paint. This area is where a lot of action happens, like rebounding or shooting free throws. Speaking of free throws, if you get fouled while shooting, this is the spot where you'll stand to take your free throw, right here on the free throw line. Now, let's move to the basket. This is the hoop, 10 feet off the ground. The rim is the metal ring, and the net hangs from it. The backboard behind the hoop helps you make shots by bouncing the ball into the basket. Then there's the three-point line. This big arc around the court. Any shot you make from outside this line is worth 3 points instead of 2. It's a little more challenging because of the distance, but it can be a game changer. And don't forget about the sidelines and baselines. The sidelines run the length of the court, while the baseline is at each end behind the basket. If the ball goes out of bounds, it's taken back into play from one of these lines, depending on where it went out. We have the bleachers. These are the seats where people sit to watch games. You'll find bleachers in most sports venues, and they can be folded away to save space. These bleachers are where the audience and cheerleaders sit during games. Cheerleaders are the people who perform cheers and chants to motivate the team and entertain the crowd. You might also notice the scoreboard up there. That's where the scores are displayed during the game. Beside it is the buzzer, which goes off when the game ends. Over here, we have the locker rooms, where players change into their gear. We also have a water fountain where players can grab a drink. We can't forget the team huddle either. This is when the players gather in a circle to discuss strategies during a break. And, of course, every game. needs an announcer to keep the crowd informed about the action on the court. Lastly, the benches are over here on the side. This is where the team sits when they're not on the court. And it's also where the coach usually huddles with the team during timeouts. So, that's a quick tour of the basketball court. Now that you know the basics, next time you're watching or playing a game, you'll be able to spot all these different parts. Now, let's dive deeper into the music room. As you can see, this room is full of instruments, and it's where a lot of creativity happens. Over here, we have a grand piano. It's used not only for practice, but also during performances. The piano bench is where the pianist sits, and the keys are pressed to create the sound. The black ones are sharps and flats, while the white keys are the natural notes. The sheet music sits on this music stand, which holds the notes that the pianist plays. Next, let's talk about the choir area. In the back, you can see the choir stands. These are similar to bleachers, but instead of sports fans, they are used by singers. The choir is a group of singers who perform together, often under the direction of a choir director. The director stands on a podium at the front, holding a baton. This small stick helps them lead the group and keep everyone in time. Sometimes the choir performs a cappella, which means singing without any instruments, or they might sing along with the accompaniment of a piano or an orchestra. Speaking of the orchestra, we've got plenty of vocabulary for that too. The orchestra is a large group of musicians playing together. It's usually made up of string instruments like violins, violas, cellos, and double basses. We also have woodwinds such as flutes, clarinets, oboes, and bassoons. Don't forget about the brass instruments like trumpets, trombones, French horns, and tubas. Finally, there's the percussion section, which includes drums, cymbals, and xylophones. Each musician has a music stand to hold their sheet music, and they tune their instruments before the conductor begins. Now, let's look at some of the people involved in a performance. First, we have the soloist. A soloist is a musician or singer who performs alone, often in front of an audience. If you're singing or playing by yourself, you're a soloist. If you're part of a group like a choir, you might still have a solo, which means you sing a special part by yourself while the others provide backup. There's also the ensemble, which is a small group of musicians who perform together, like a jazz band or a string quartet. They practice their repertoire, which is the list of pieces they perform. The concertmaster, usually the first violinist, leads the string section and works closely with the conductor. They also play the solo parts for the violin. If we look around the room, you'll see other instruments too. Over here is a set of drums, which is used in both the orchestra and more modern music groups. A snare drum is used in marching bands, and this bass drum adds the deep beats that keep time. You'll also see some guitars hanging on the wall. These acoustic guitars are perfect for singing along with simple tunes, while electric guitars are more common in rock bands. One of the most important roles in this room is the band director or conductor. They are in charge of leading the entire group, whether it's a choir, an orchestra, or a smaller ensemble. The conductor uses a baton to guide the tempo and dynamics of the performance. They also have a score, which is the full version of the sheet music that includes all the parts for every instrument. Let's not forget the choir members themselves. These are the singers who stand on the choir stands during performances. They are often divided into sections based on voice type. For example, you'll have sopranos, the highest female voices, altos, lower female voices, tenors, higher male voices, and basses, the lowest male voices. Each section sings a different part of the harmony, and together, they create a full, rich sound. The rehearsal is where all the magic happens before a performance. Musicians and singers practice their pieces, making sure they are in tune and working together as a group. The conductor will often stop the group during rehearsal to go over difficult sections or to adjust the tempo, which is the speed of the music. They may also talk about dynamics, which is how loud or soft the music should be. At the back of the room, we have a microphone. A microphone is often used in performances, especially if the singer or musician needs to amplify their voice or instrument. This one is connected to a sound system that helps the audience hear the performance clearly. Finally, let's talk about the audience. During a concert or performance, the audience sits in the auditorium or concert hall to listen. They give applause when the performance is finished, and if they really enjoy it, they might even ask for an encore, which is when the musicians perform one more piece as a special treat. That's quite a lot of music vocabulary, and it'll come in handy whether you're talking about a concert you went to or describing the instruments and people involved in a performance. Now, let's step into the art studio. This is where creativity really comes to life. As you enter, you'll see an array of art supplies laid out on the tables. Over here, we have some easels. An easel is a stand that holds your canvas or paper while you paint or draw. You might recognize it from those classic art class scenes in movies. Speaking of canvases, here's one that's set up on an easel. A canvas is the surface artists use for painting. It's typically made of fabric stretched over a wooden frame. If you look closely, you might see some brushes and paints nearby. These are the tools of the trade. Brushes come in different shapes and sizes, from large flat ones to tiny detail brushes. And paints? Well, they can be acrylic, oil, or watercolor, each giving a different texture and finish. On the table, you'll find a variety of paint tubes. Each tube is filled with a different color. You might also see some palettes, which artists use to mix their colors. If you've ever tried mixing paints, you know how important it is to get just the right shade. Sometimes I like to mix my own colors and see what new shades I can create. It's a bit like playing mad scientist with art. What else do we have? Ah, yes. This is a sketchbook. A sketchbook is where artists jot down their ideas and make preliminary sketches. It's like a visual diary of their creative process. Over here, we have a few charcoal pencils and colored pencils. Charcoal is great for adding dramatic shading, while colored pencils are perfect for adding vibrant details. And look at this, an artistic apron. Wearing an apron helps protect clothes from getting splattered with paint. It's always a good idea to have one, especially if you're as messy as I am. I remember one time I got so carried away with a painting that I ended up with more paint on my apron than on the canvas. In the corner, you'll see some framed artwork. Framing artwork not only protects it, but also makes it look polished and professional. The frame can be made of wood, metal, or even plastic, and it adds a finishing touch to the art. It's like giving your masterpiece its very own special place. Next to the framed art, there's a gallery wall. A gallery wall is where artists display multiple pieces of their work. It's a great way to showcase a collection and see how different works complement each other. If you're an artist, you might dream of having your own gallery wall someday. Oh, and here's a sculpture. Sculptures are three-dimensional pieces of art. They can be made from various materials, like clay, metal, or stone. This one is made of clay and is still drying on the pottery wheel. The pottery wheel is used to shape clay into beautiful forms. It's fascinating to watch how the artist's hands transform a lump of clay into something amazing. On the workbench, you might also spot some artistic tools, like palette knives and spatulas. These are used for mixing paints, applying texture, or even scraping away parts of a painting to reveal something underneath. It's all part of the fun and discovery of creating art. And let's not forget about the reference materials. These are books or images that artists use for inspiration or guidance. They might contain pictures of famous artworks, photographs, or even anatomical drawings. They're like a treasure trove of ideas and techniques. Before we finish up here, I just want to mention how important the art studio atmosphere is. It's a place where you can let your imagination run wild and express yourself freely. It's where you can experiment, make mistakes, and create something beautiful. So that's a little tour of the art studio. It's a place full of creativity and inspiration, with all the tools and materials an artist needs to bring their visions to life. I hope you enjoyed this look into the world of art and picked up some new vocabulary along the way. Alright, now we're in the cafeteria, my favorite place. It's a bit quieter today since there's no lunchtime rush, but normally this place is buzzing with activity. Over here, we've got the tables and chairs, of course. These tables are where students gather to eat, chat, and sometimes even cram for a test. What else? There's the food counter. This is where you pick up your meals. You've got your trays, which help carry everything without making a mess. Now, let's take a look at the menu board. Cafeterias usually have a rotating menu, so today might be pizza day. Tomorrow could be Taco Tuesday. Oh, and let's not forget about the salad bar over here. That's where you can grab some lettuce, tomatoes, and whatever other toppings you like. It's nice to have some healthier options, right? And here we have the utensil station. You've got your forks, spoons, and knives. Most schools also have those plastic utensils, which are easy to carry around. Over by the drink station, there's the usual lineup juice boxes, water bottles, and maybe even a milk carton or two if you're feeling nostalgic. Now, on the walls, you'll notice some posters. A lot of them are about promoting healthy eating or recycling. This one here says, "Eat your veggies," A little reminder from the school to keep it balanced. And of course, this is the cash register. It's where you pay for your meal. Most students these days use some kind of prepaid card. But back in the day, we had to carry around some loose change or bills. Times have changed. What else? Oh, over in the corner is a microwave. Some students like to bring their own lunches, so the microwave comes in handy for heating things up. All right, that's about it for the cafeteria. Let's keep moving. All right, let's step into the classroom now. This room brings back memories, doesn't it? So, first up, we have the desks. Each student has their own desk. Some people call them school desks. They come with a little space underneath to store your notebooks and pencils. And this here is the teacher's desk. It's usually bigger, with a chair that spins. I always wanted to sit there when I was a student. Maybe you did too? What else? Oh, the blackboard. Well, these days it's more common to have a whiteboard, but some schools still use blackboards with chalk. If you've never seen one, they can get really dusty. But here we have a whiteboard with markers. The teacher uses it to write down important information, like lesson objectives or new vocabulary words. Now, this little corner over here is the class library. Look at all these books. Most of them are probably textbooks, but there are some storybooks as well. When you finish your work early, you can grab one and read quietly at your desk. Did you ever have a class library? I remember we used to have one, but I spent most of my time doodling in my notebook instead. Here's the bulletin board. This is where teachers put up important announcements like test dates, project deadlines, or even just some fun artwork from students. It's always nice to see a little creativity on display. Now, if you look around, you'll see these posters on the wall. A lot of them have useful information, like math formulas, grammar rules, or science diagrams. This one over here is about sentence structure. See how it breaks down the parts of a sentence? Very useful when you're learning English. And of course, we've got the classroom clock. Time seems to slow down when you're waiting for the bell to ring, doesn't it? The bell signals the end of class, and then it's off to the next subject. Lastly, this here is the projector. Some teachers use this to show videos or presentations. You connect it to the computer at the teacher's desk, and it projects onto the screen. It's great for showing slideshows or educational videos. What else? Oh, the windows. We didn't have air conditioning in some of my old classrooms, so we relied on opening the windows to cool down.